From fierce Viking raiders to sophisticated Norman conquerors, discover how these warriors revolutionized medieval Europe. Join us as we explore their extraordinary journey from Scandinavia to England, forever changing the course of British history. Let's dive into one of history's most remarkable transformations, how fierce Viking raiders became the refined Norman knights. Picture this, it's the late 8th century, and Scandinavian warriors are striking fear across Europe with their dragon-headed longships. But here's where it gets interesting. Some of these Vikings settled in northern France, in a region that would become Normandy. Through a fascinating blend of Norse warrior culture and Frankish customs, these settlers gradually adopted Christianity, feudal practices, and the French language. They didn't completely abandon their Viking roots, though. They combined their natural fighting spirit with heavy cavalry tactics, creating a unique military style that would make them famous throughout medieval Europe. The Normans essentially took the best of both worlds, Viking strength and French sophistication, to create something entirely new and incredibly powerful. Let's talk about Rollo, the Viking leader who changed everything with one clever move. In 911, after years of raiding French territories, Rollo struck an unprecedented deal with King Charles the Simple of West Francia. Instead of fighting, Charles offered Rollo a huge chunk of land, what we now call Normandy, in exchange for protecting France's coastline from other Viking raiders. Pretty smart, right? Rollo accepted, converted to Christianity, and even married a French princess. This wasn't just a land grab, it was a complete cultural transformation. Rollo and his Vikings traded their longships for castles, adopted French customs, and started building what would become one of medieval Europe's most powerful duchies. They kept their Viking fighting skills but added French flair, creating a unique Norman identity that would reshape European history. Now, let's meet William, a figure who embodies the ultimate Norman success story. Born the illegitimate son of Duke Robert of Normandy, young William faced intense opposition from the start. Imagine being a 7-year-old duke in a land where powerful nobles viewed you as an easy target. But William wasn't just any child ruler. Despite assassination attempts and rebellions, he grew into a brilliant military commander and shrewd politician. By his 20s, he had already crushed several rebellions and earned a reputation as someone you definitely didn't want to mess with. William transformed Normandy into a powerhouse, building an impressive network of castles and establishing a well-organized government system. He surrounded himself with loyal advisors and introduced innovative military tactics that combined Norman cavalry with traditional warfare. This combination of political smarts and military might would soon serve him well in his most ambitious venture, claiming the English throne. Let's break down the incredible Battle of Hastings, fought on October 14, 1066, a day that changed England forever. Picture this. Dawn breaks over Senlac Hill, with Harold's Anglo-Saxon army holding the high ground, their famous shield wall glinting in the morning sun. William's Norman forces gather below, their cavalry pawing at the ground, ready for action. The battle kicks off around 9 a.m. with Norman archers letting loose, but those arrows just bounce off the Anglo-Saxon shields. Then William tries something bold, sending his infantry uphill. When that doesn't work, he pulls out his secret weapon, the fake retreat. His cavalry pretends to flee, tempting the English to break ranks and chase them. It works perfectly. The shield wall breaks, and that's when the Norman cavalry turns around and shows why they're the medieval equivalent of tanks. The fighting rages until dusk, and in a dramatic twist, Harold takes an arrow to the eye, though whether that actually happened is still debated by historians today. Talk about terrible timing. Harold Godwinson faced what might be history's worst case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Just as William was preparing to invade from Normandy, another threat emerged from the north. Harald Hardrada, the ambitious king of Norway, decided this was the perfect moment to claim England for himself. Harold had to make an impossible choice: defend the south against William or race north to face the Norwegian invasion. He chose the north, force-marching his army 180 miles in just 4 days, a feat that would be impressive even by today's standards. At Stamford Bridge, Harold's army caught the Norwegians completely off guard, securing a decisive victory. But celebration turned to dread when news arrived of William's landing in the south. Harold's exhausted army had to immediately turn around and march another 250 miles south. This grueling journey would have serious consequences when they finally faced the well-rested Norman forces at Hastings. Let's explore how the Normans revolutionized medieval warfare with their innovative military tactics. Their secret weapon? A brilliant combination of heavy cavalry, skilled archers, and advanced castle engineering. The Norman cavalry wasn't just about charging into battle. They perfected the feigned retreat tactic, where mounted knights would pretend to flee, luring enemy forces into breaking formation before turning around to strike. Their archers were equally impressive, using the deadly crossbow alongside traditional bows to create devastating volleys. But perhaps their most lasting innovation was their castle design. The Normans introduced the Motte Bailey Castle to England, a clever defensive structure featuring a wooden tower on a raised earthen mound, surrounded by a fortified courtyard. These castles could be built quickly, allowing the Normans to secure their conquered territories and establish permanent control over the English landscape. After the Battle of Hastings, William faced a serious problem. Northern England just wouldn't accept Norman rule. His response? One of the most brutal campaigns in medieval history. In 1069, William launched what we now call the harrying of the North. Think scorched earth tactics taken to the extreme. His armies systematically destroyed everything from Yorkshire to Durham. They burned crops, killed livestock, and demolished entire villages. This wasn't just random destruction. It was a calculated strategy to starve the population into submission. The campaign was so thorough that even 17 years later, the Domesday book showed many northern regions still lying waste. While this brutal approach successfully crushed resistance, it also showed a darker side to Norman rule, one that combined sophisticated administration with utterly ruthless methods of control. William's Domesday book was basically medieval England's first big data project, and it was revolutionary. Picture royal officials traveling across England in 1086, knocking on doors and counting everything from sheep to ploughlands. Think of it as a massive Google spreadsheet, but written on parchment. William wanted to know exactly what he owned, who owned what, and most importantly, who owed him taxes. The survey was so thorough that locals claimed not even a single ox or cow could escape the count. That's why they nicknamed it Domesday, meaning doomsday, because its judgments were as final as the Last Judgment. This wasn't just about counting stuff. It completely transformed how England was governed. For the first time, there was a clear record of land ownership, making it harder for nobles to cheat the system. The Domesday Book gives us an incredible snapshot of medieval English life, from farming practices to social structures. Let's explore one of history's most fascinating cultural mashups, the blend of Norman and Anglo-Saxon traditions that created medieval English society. The Normans didn't just conquer England, they transformed it through an incredible mix of both cultures. Think about our modern English language. When you eat beef, you're using the Norman French word, while the word cow comes from Anglo-Saxon. The Normans brought their sophisticated architecture, replacing wooden Anglo-Saxon churches with massive stone cathedrals. They introduced new legal concepts and reformed the government, but they were smart enough to keep useful Anglo-Saxon institutions like the local shire courts. In fashion, food, and art, this cultural fusion created something entirely new, a uniquely English identity that combined Norman refinement with Anglo-Saxon practicality. The Norman conquest wasn't just a change in leadership, it completely transformed England's DNA. Let's look at the incredible legacy that's still visible today. First, our language. About 45% of English words come from French, which is why we have fancy Norman words like cuisine, alongside plain Anglo-Saxon ones like food. The Normans also gave us those magnificent stone castles and cathedrals that draw millions of tourists, places like the Tower of London and Durham Cathedral. They revolutionized England's legal system too, creating the foundations of common law that's now used in many countries worldwide. Even the way British society was structured, with its emphasis on aristocracy and hereditary titles, comes straight from Norman traditions. Think about it. Every time you see a British royal ceremony or hear legal terms like court and judge, you're witnessing the lasting impact of 1066. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey through Viking and Norman history. If you enjoyed exploring these medieval transformations, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Stay tuned for more fascinating historical tales next week.